We are Teresa and Sophie, and today we are going to talk about the United Nations. First of all, we will explain how the UN works before presenting how it protects human rights. Then we will discuss the UN's actions in times of conflict. Finally, we will briefly explain the political debates held in the UN regarding sustainable development.
So, how the UN works. The United Nations is an international organization that includes 193 member states. It was created in 1945 to maintain international peace and security, promote human rights, and provide humanitarian aid, and uphold international law. The UN is made up of six organs. First of all, the General Assembly, a deliberative body where all member states are represented and each one has a vote. It adopts non-binding recommendations. Second of all, the Security Council. They are responsible for dealing with threats to peace and security. It can adopt binding resolutions and authorize sanctions or peacekeeping operations. The Economic and Social Council promotes international economic and social cooperation. And we have the Trustship Council. Its role has become obsolete since the end of the decolonization. Then we have the International Court of Justice, resolves disputes between states and gives legal opinions. Sorry, my bad. It's located in The Hague. And finally, we have the Secretariat. They manage the daily operations of the UN and includes around 9,000 no, thousand staff members. 9,000. You know? The UN also includes 15 Can you say it?
Specialized.
Thank you.
Specialized.
Agencies like the World Health Organization and UNESCO, and funds and programs such as UNDP and UNICEF. These bodies from the UN system um, and work in specific areas to achieve the organization's goals. The UN works through international cooperation and aims to find solutions to global problems that cross national borders.
Now we will explain how the UN protects human rights. The UN promotes the protection of human rights through several tools and actions. First of all, there's the international legal framework. The UN created a system of international laws and standards, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. This declaration inspired 9 key international treaties covering issues like racial discrimination, women's and children's rights, and protection from torture. Secondly, there's the Human Rights Council. This main UN body has 47 elected members and works to promote and protect fundamental rights. It investigates human rights violations, gives recommendations, and runs the Universal Periodic Review to assess human rights in all member states. Then, monitoring mechanisms. Independent expert committees monitor how countries implement human rights treaties. There's also the humanitarian aid. The UN helps people affected by natural disasters or conflicts to protect their basic rights. There are also specialized agencies. The organizations like UNICEF, for example, focus on protecting the rights of specific groups, such as children, even during conflict. Resolutions and declarations. The UN often adopts texts that reinforce human rights protections, such as on the death penalty or civilian protection in crisis. And finally, there are the special procedures. The UN creates mandates on specific topics like human rights defenders, gender discrimination, or human rights in business. In short, the UN uses a wide range of legal tools, monitoring systems, humanitarian aid, and targeted actions to defend human rights worldwide.
Well, now we're going to talk about how the UN acts in time of conflicts. The UN acts in case of conflict using several mechanisms. First of all, the conflict prevention. The UN focus on preventive diplomacy to stop conflicts from starting to getting worse. That includes mediation, reconciliation, and negotiation by special envoys and representatives of the Secretary General. Then monitoring potential conflicts around the world, or even conflict analysis by the Department of Political Affairs to help the Security Council and the Secretary General react quickly. So then the peacekeeping. When a conflict happens, the UN can send peace, peacekeeping missions that includes the famous blue helmets to monitor seas and protect civilians and support peace and processes. Then multi-dimensional missions that help disarm fighters, train local police, protect human rights, and assist refugees. And then the UN, then talking about the peace, in more serious cases, the Security Council can impose economic sanctions or target embargoes, authorize military interventions,
Oui.
and finally, involving interventions. Since the 1990s, UN interventions have changed. The, the consent or conflict parties is not always required. The effectiveness of these actions is debated due to the complexity of modern conflicts and political operational limits of the UN.
Now we will explain the political debates at the UN regarding sustainable development. UN debates on sustainable development focus on the 2030 agenda and its 17 sustainable development goals, also known as SDGs. These debates highlight progress, challenges, and priorities. First of all, the progress and challenges. In a 2025 speech, Secretary General Antonio Guterres said there had been progress, especially in renewable energy and education. However, crisis can unequally climate change and unregulated technology remain serious problems. Only 17% of SDGs are on track to be achieved by 2030, showing stagnation or decline in some areas. Stronger political will is needed to reverse this. The priorities for 2025. Key areas include poverty, food security, education, health, sustainable energy, and climate action. Special attention is given to achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. The 2025 Highlight Political Forum, HLPF, will promote inclusive, evidence based solutions and focus on SDG 3, which is health, 5, gender equality, 17, global partnership. There are also calls to action. The UN leads urgent global action to avoid disasters for future generations and support a transformation that benefits people and the planet. Strong partnerships between member states and other actors are essential to move faster toward the SDGs. And finally, political impact of the SDGs. The SDGs changed how sustainable development is discussed and had limited impact on actual policies. They mostly affected discourse, with few real politically changes. In conclusion, even though important efforts are made, turning promises into actions remain a challenge. Current debates aim to boost momentum and tackle today's urgent problems. I'll briefly explain the main Sustainable Development Goals addressed by the UN. The main SDGs addressed by the UN are part of the 2030 Agenda. These 17 goals aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. The main ones regard poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, and gender equality. As I mentioned, there are also many more which
17.
regards 17, which regard the sanity and the well-being of the people, and also the protection of biodiversity. These goals are connected. Progress in one area often supports progress in others, requiring a global and integrated approach.
Well, then we'll see how the UN measures progress on the SDGs. The UN measures SDG progress through a global monitoring system with indicators, reports, and forums. So we are also going to see the main ones, which are global and national indicators, annual reports and evaluations, high level political forum, innovative data and integrated approaches, and then finally voluntary national reviews. In short, the UN uses strong data systems and participatory methods to track SDG progress. Sorry, emphasizing transparency and adaptability.
We will finish off by explaining the key challenges for the UN in sustainable development. The UN faces major challenges in achieving the SDGs by 2030. These main challenges are climate crisis, persistent inequalities, economic instability and debt, international cooperation issues, slow progress on key goals, and finally, lack of adequate financing. In short, the UN must strengthen cooperation, increase funding, and integrate stronger policies to speed up SDG progress to reach the 2030 agenda.
Thank you.